What's up, weebs and casuals alike? We are Baka and Company, and we're here to provide you with a deep dive into all the random anime shows and movies, new and old, interesting and bad, that you should know about. On today's show, we have myself, the cosplay connoisseur, Drew64. He cosplayed as a hot dog and probably will do it again. It's Frankfurtter.
Juju, yeah.
And last but certainly not least, the darling of the podcast, it's Magicallyaverage. If I could say that name, wow, goodness, my tongue is being tied
It's
today.
okay. He doesn't matter. It's fine. He's just a scrub.
Well, if you haven't guessed it already, today we are talking about the hit from last winter, My Dress Up Darling. So let's get the ball rolling. How's everyone doing this fine winter's eve?
It's cold.
Cold.
Yeah,
It's cold
fine.
everywhere.
Yeah,
I like it though.
It's cold here, it's cold there, it's cold everywhere.
Yeah, I like it. I don't mind it. I'm a winter sports guy, so I enjoy the current weather conditions where I'm at.
I'd be fine with it if my city had the infrastructure to actually survive.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, nowhere outside of the east, like northeast and midwest, have the ability to withstand anything above an inch of snow or, below freezing.
Yeah, it's not fun. But you know what? We're not here to talk about that.
We're here to talk about My Dress Up Darling, which was written and illustrated by Shinichi Fukada. The show was also animated by Cloverworks, so you might know them from The Promised Neverland. Fucking Bochi.
Season 1 of The Promised Neverland. We don't talk about season 2.
And everyone's favorite, Spy Family. I looked up the director, and that's Shinohara Kisuke. Not really much to talk about there, so I wanted to jump into kind of the synopsis. So our show is about Wakanda Gojo. Wakanda forever.
This joke's fucking. You got just jebaited, you fools. This is a Black Panther podcast now.
You fools.
Right. Wakanda forever. Didn't
You've
see it yet.
activated my trap card.
Yeah, didn't see it yet. What's it about?
Well, it's about Wakanda Gojo, a high school student who harbors a secret love for Hina dolls, which personally I did not know anything about before the show started or even what they were called. Nope. I had seen them at a couple museums, but really cool to have that kind of backstory here. So despite his aspirations to follow in the footsteps of his grandfather as a master craftsman, he's been socially traumatized by his passion and has closed himself off from those around him. But all of that changes when his classmate, Mirin, I can't even talk today, Kitagawa is what I'm going to address her as from now on, catches a glimpse of him using a sewing machine to make a doll's costume. After being thoroughly impressed by Wakanda's work, she asks him for his help in creating cosplays. So despite his nervous feelings and limited experience with anything other than Hina dolls, he agrees to help her out. He's up to the challenge, and it just turns into a heartwarming tale of friendship, creativity, and I just couldn't wait to see where that journey took us. It was beautiful.
Magical, yes. Some would say.
Wonderful. Wunderbar.
Ooh.
So for first impressions, I'm going to go down the list. I'm not going to start with Frank. I'm going to start with Magicallyaverage.
With me?
Because someone was mean to you earlier today.
He's always mean, though.
Not going to reward him for that behavior. Yes!
What did I do?
Not going to reward him for get in the corner.
I didn't do shit.
Shame on you.
I can't remember, and I'm going to need actually your help, Frank, here, but did we start reading before it came out, or did it come out after? It came out after?
We watched episode 1, and we were like, yep, and bought all the books.
Yeah, well, I think at the time there was only 3, I want to say.
I can look it up while you keep talking.
Yeah, but it was one of those that stood out in the winter list at the time, and I was like, okay, this seems interesting. I'm the slice of life man. I love me a good slice of life, and I like ones that have a twist to them and some unique aspect to it. It's not just like, oh, high school boy goes and sees high school girl, and what fun adventures will they go on? Boring. Let's get some fun things in there. How about guy is basically just being taught how to create Hina dolls, has a really strong passion for Hina dolls, which little odd, okay? Not normal, but hey, it's a passion, it's a life, that he wants to go into because his grandfather is an artist in the trade, and so yeah, respectable. But can't tell anyone about that, or you're just going to get shit on for your whole life. Yeah. Until some popular girl just somehow spots you, and then whoops, secret's out now. But lo and behold, she doesn't make fun of you. She becomes your friend because she wants to cosplay and you're really good at sewing and the friendship is born. I just like that. That's such a cool twist to the whole slice of life aspect of the, the whole genre. Again, I thoroughly enjoyed the relationship that they were built over the span of the season. Um, the animation is superb. If you like Bocchi the Rock animation, I mean, this is kind of like, in my opinion, the pivotal show in which Cloverworks started to like really branch into different areas of like slice of lifestyle animation, where they use those static backgrounds that look almost like real life pictures of actual places that they've like quote unquote cartoonized, I guess.
It's like they took
really,
a picture and just drew over it.
yeah,
they vectored
but
it,
it's cool. I like it. It's a very unique style, and they used that. The first time I'd seen it was in My Dress Up Darling, and they used it again in Bocchi the Rock, and I was like, oh sweet, they're still using that. But no, this was such a fun ride. It was even more fun to read too, because you get to see a little bit more into the creative uh, side of the author and like how she came about some of the stories and the places in the show. It like really ingrained herself in the cosplay culture too. Tried out cosplaying. Hilarious that she utterly failed at it, and like had to have, I think she went to the hospital or something because she used the wrong makeup or something. I don't know. Some weird afterword in the manga about how she tried to cosplay and it went just terribly wrong. But shows how much of a passion the mangaka has towards, making the story feel real and truthful to, what cosplaying is really like in Japan. So I enjoyed it immensely. It was so much fun, and I want to see more of it. I've been reading it. It comes out like every 3 months, which is just such a pain.
Not
I'm
even.
like, oh God, I know. Well, the newest one just came out, and I'm about to read it tonight. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, I want more. I just want to watch more. It's just so much fun. They're so lovable. Gojo must be protected at all costs. Not Yowaimo Gojo, like the sweet, innocent Hinadol Gojo. Don't get those confused. But no, it was such a blast.
Yeah, so to put in perspective, to go back to your previous question, we started reading it after I looked at my old orders as to when I placed the order for Volume 1, and it was like February 1st. So it was probably after a few episodes had gone by, and we were like, yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And the first 4 volumes were out, which actually covers a majority of Season 1. Season 1 ends near the end of Volume 5. But I mean, as for me, for this show, I thoroughly enjoyed it when we watched it week to week. This isn't just a show that I enjoyed. Everybody in kind of like my circle of friends, group of friends, whatever you want to call it, they were watching it too, and they were enjoying it just as much as I was. And to say that they were all boys is false. I mean, even my little sister was also on this show from day one, and she absolutely enjoyed it too. But the one kind of criticism that I will give it, and I think we talked about this when we were doing like our week to week like rundown of shows. The way that it ends was nearly perfect. I think what would have added such hilarity and comedic value to it, which it's not in the original thing, it's fine. This just is my own 2 cents. If Gojo had just fake pretended sleeping and heard "I love you" and just would have just like stayed awake, that shit would have been hilarious.
No,
It would have been hilarious as an ending.
We talked about this before. That would have completely taken away from the moment.
But the one true criticism that I do have is that I watched it subbed when it first came out. Subbed was great. I don't know good and bad Japanese voice acting if it fucking hit me in the face. So it was great. It was fine. The writing was fantastic. I watched it this past week dubbed. And I do have a bit of a bone to pick with Gojo's voice actor. He's really just kind of dull and like reading through lines sometimes. He does have some instances of gold in which he's like, when he gets excited, like you can kind of see like, okay, this is where he shines. But when he's kind of just being a shy, meek Gojo, which is a lot of the time, his voice kind of comes off stale and just boring. Not to say like that Gojo isn't supposed to be kind of a boring character, which I mean, kinda. He's got like he's like a one-trick pony, and he's just learning about the world. But like I don't think that his voice actor gave him the life that he needed in the dub, unfortunately. But the remaining of the cast was fantastic.
Yeah, you see that from time to time too. I have, and I watched it with my wife in the dubbed, and I noticed that right away. I was like, yeah, it's a different take. But you see that a lot especially in Slice of Life, where like, I think Tadano was one from Komi Can't Communicate.
Oh yeah.
Where like the Japanese one sounds, in my opinion, good. You always say he sounds like a middle-aged man, even though he's a high school kid. But I'm like, I think it sounds good. But Tadano in the English, from what I remembered, was very strange. Same with the person that we thought might be a little troublesome in animation. I can't remember their name.
Najimi.
Yeah, Najimi. They sound completely different in English, and I don't like it. Just basically, they sound way too feminine, even though and it comes across really weird because they changed some of the lines. But that's another thing. I think, to your point though, what I wanted to highlight with you saying like, oh, it would have been funny if he was awake and he was like, what the fuck? This show does have a lot of good humor in it, and I think it comes from just how stark their personalities are from one another. Like Gojo is a very shy, extremely introverted, like you said, Frank, effectively introducing himself to the world at the ripe old age of like 17 or something. No, yeah, no, I know. Yeah. But that plays into his whole character, right? Like his whole life from a very young age. Like I think when they show him in the past, he's probably like 5 or 6. He sees a Hina doll at his grandfather's shop and is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in love with these. I just want to learn more about them. What can I do to be a part of them like all the time?" And then it's like, well, grandfather makes them, so cool, I'm gonna learn the trade. And that's when like he has the traumatic experience of his cousin basically being like, "You're a boy and you play with dolls, you're weird." And
I think it was just a friend at school, not
Yeah,
a cousin.
It was like a random person that he was playing with.
I thought it was his cousin. Someone might have to look that up. But anyway, doesn't matter. That's where his trauma begins, right? And he realizes like, well, my obsession is weird. I'm a weirdo.
It is friends.
Okay. Well, I'll go fuck myself then. But doesn't matter. That's where it all started.
Yeah. Tiny detail.
Yeah. But it's great that they played into that with the fact that like he made it his main mission in life to become a master craftsman of Hina dolls from a very young age. Like school is important, obviously, and like outside of that, it's just Hina dolls. Like when he gets home and gets out of his uniform, he goes into
his old man uniform.
Yeah, basically, I can't remember I can't remember what the outfit is called, but it's mostly for like it's breathable.
Yep.
And it's great for when you're working constantly in a hot area. And that's what he wears like all the time, to the point where Kitagawa had to go out and take him shopping at I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically Uniqlo. And he's like, "I don't think I need shirts. I just want to get a new one of these."
And he buys like the upgraded summer version.
Yeah, and he's so proud of himself. And his grandpa's like, "You bought that?" He's like, "Yes, I did."
He's like, "It's so breathable."
Yeah.
I really like those interactions. And this show, a lot of what I was talking with, like my wife watched it as well, and she doesn't typically watch a lot of anime. So it was wholesome. It was something to bring a friend along for the ride. And just those interactions, and Gojo being, in my mind, born an old man, where his goal was to do the Hina dolls and pretty much just seclude himself. But I also appreciate, similar to what you're saying there, Tyler, is that they expanded on his seclusion. It wasn't just that he was a kid who went home and did the Hina dolls. No, he missed out on fireworks. He missed out on the beach. He missed out on road trips. He missed out on all this stuff. So that as Kitagawa starts introducing him to these things, they're new to him, and then we get to see from her perspective as well. She's getting to kind of relive these moments of her like adolescence with him, right? So we kind of get a bonus where she's excited to take him places, she's excited to do things with him. And I just saw I had a note here that Uniqlo was called Uni in this universe,
Oh, that's right.
and kept the font and the red logo, so it was like,
Yep.
it's
and
just
the
like
way
when
it's structured too, like
yeah,
uni, and then uni
yeah,
would be below it, like
yeah,
Clo.
just like they do for like Wick Donalds and stuff.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated that. Again, I'm a huge fan of backgrounds and things being crisp and clean, and watching this not on a computer screen, watching it on a TV through streaming services just made it pop. Like the visuals, the color design, the just everything in this show just felt wholesome, and I was excited to watch an episode. So what we typically did was after dinner watch an episode or two. But then an episode or two turned into 3 in a row, and then it was, we have 2 episodes left. Do you want to save them to tomorrow? And it was, oh hell no, we're finishing this. So
Yeah, we're
that
wrapping
kind of
this up now.
that leads me into, I know our selection is super small, but favorite characters.
Oh gosh.
Ooh,
And if it's not Kitagawa, why?
that's a good question.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to throw a curveball out there.
Sure.
Because I mean, we're already kind of into spoilers, so if you're listening this far, I don't know, there's no help for you. I
It's
would
been
argue
out for a year. The spoiler tag is just taken off.
Yeah. I would argue that Kitagawa, it's not fair to just name Kitagawa your favorite. I think you could go even more specific and name one of her cosplays. Because she kind of has that mentality of like a method actor, where like she likes to cosplay things that she's very much a fan of and well versed in.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of adopts, well, at first she doesn't. Gojo has to kind of train her, but she adopts the personality of those characters, right? Like the first one, I can't remember her name, but it's from the Slippery Girls game, right?
Yeah.
And she's like a sex slave kind of. But like her outfit is like this black lolly outfit that's like very regal though, and she's kind of like it's a little timid and shy, but Kitagawa is not that. So when she starts cosplaying, she's like, ooh, put up the victory signs and like give a big smile and cheese. And Gojo's like, I played through that game. That is not what she does.
Yeah, he's the purist, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that perfectly aligns with sort of what he, like, his passions, right? Hina dolls is a very old traditional style art, I guess, creative style of art, and there's very little sway there. He does state at some points, like, oh, Hina dolls these days even have different like lipstick and nails and like eyelashes and stuff, which is like, for him it's like, whoa, that's so new age, but it's still traditional, right? So he's
Right.
yeah, like to your point, Drew, he's very much a purist. So he brings that element into the cosplaying piece of it, like trying to stay as true to the characters as possible, not just in looks, but in personality, in how they talk, how they act, everything about
Yeah.
it. So I loved seeing her in her different cosplays, because you saw that very stark transition from like the Slippery Girl cosplay to the black Labella, I think.
Labellion.
Yes. Like that character, which is like she's very like stoic, comes off as a little aggressive, very intimidating. And then we get into one of her other characters, which we don't really see that much of, really. It's like for one split second, and then it sort of ends in tragedy, which is the character from the fighting game that has like shark teeth and is in chains and stuff, and like a really like skimpy bikini, like really, really like crazy differences between all three. And then obviously there's more and more in the manga too, which is going to be fantastic to see when they finally come to the screen. But I would say you could pick one of those different cosplays as Kitagawa, and that's a different person.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Black Labellion, just because.
Damn you! That was mine.
I liked the build up to that, because she's like, oh, it's a different character. I want to try something like unique, and how do I get my eye shape? And it was the whole tutorial of going from it felt like someone bought for the first one, someone buys a costume online, to someone gets a costume professionally fitted so that they can do their makeup and have a professional photo session to make money on the internet. And she has a really cool friendship, and that whole arc with the other who is it, Juju?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, her and her sister, and like that was wholesome as hell. And just that little mini 3 episode jaunt was fantastic. So that's why I like that one.
Fair enough. I'll throw a curveball. I mean, other than Mirren and her personalities, I think one of my favorite characters was actually Juju's younger sister. I think that she was
Damn it, that was gonna be my second one.
Her character is like comedic relief to the fucking max, but also in the fact that she's personality wise relatable, in which she's kind of like the freakishly tall younger sister, bigger in any and every proportion, which, you know, we don't have to get into, but, you know, it is what it is. But also for the fact that, you know, she really admires her siblings and she really wants to see them shine, but she also wants to try it them herself, but doesn't want to step on, you know, her sister's toes and make a mistake and then just upset her sister in any sort of way, so she kind of shies away. So I think that just character-wise and character development-wise, I really enjoyed that little tiny side story that she had in the like span of 3 episodes. I think that she was a really funny and very good character to add into the show.
Yeah, I'm gonna tag along with that one because Juju's younger sister was my favorite for one main piece, which is that she teaches her sister such a valuable lesson, because Juju was always cosplaying as, because her character is very short and petite, so she would normally only cosplay characters that were similar in stature and size to her. And her sister's like, well, why would you do that? Like, you could do all these other characters that you like. And her Juju's would always go, well, because I can't represent them like to their full effect, right? If someone's very tall and
Faithfully.
right, like I can't do, there's no 1-to-1 with me because I don't have the height or the size or whatever it might be. There's only so much that you can do with a cosplay. But then her sister sort of proves that whole thing wrong by cosplaying as a guy. And it's nothing like crazy for a girl to cosplay as a guy, but like her sister is very well endowed, and it's like that was a struggle just to get that taken care of. But then to transform her, you know, facially, everything else wise, like it was perfect. And it sort of showed Juju like you can break down those barriers, and like even though you don't have the exact facial features or whatever it might be, like the characteristics of yourself to the character, you can still faithfully cosplay as them just in your own manner, right? Like, she is not a guy and she doesn't see herself as one, but she wanted to cosplay as this character because she liked them for a number of different reasons. And she did cosplay and she did it very well. Like, it sort of broke that mold for Juju to be like, I can cosplay outside of just my norm of small petite characters. And my sister showed that. Someone who I only ever thought was interested in cosplay because of me, and she would just take my pictures. Like, who knew that I wanted to cosplay? And there was that whole fear too of like from the younger sister being like, I don't want to cosplay and do it wrong and piss her off. And that got proven wrong too. So many like amazing teaching, learning moments in just those 3 episodes with Juju and her younger sister that came out. And I was like, wow, if you didn't think this show could get more wholesome, but boy, does it
Boy,
just get
howdy.
more and more wholesome at each and every episode.
Boy, howdy. Yeah, no, I really did thoroughly enjoy the little sister. The comedic relief again that she brought was really great. I mean, never forget the fucking button scene, but
that one's been it memed so many times, and I love it. The button
was
shooting
awesome.
off, and then Neil deGrasse Tyson doing like the meow, and then like someone just getting beamed by
It
something.
was so good.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So branching. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes,
Finish.
branches. We're gonna talk about trees now.
No, I was gonna say
I'm on
branching
to
into
that.
my next topic.
Oh, okay.
What is the
Is it about
next topic?
trees?
I hope
Well,
so.
not
I
anymore.
wanted to. Oh,
I'm
fuck.
gonna I'm gonna leave it alone.
Boo.
But that goes into like the favorite moments of
I
of the
arbor
show.
resentment towards you.
Boo.
Good night, everybody.
Boo.
And then it just goes on for forever.
Just 10 hours.
What's the next topic? I'm losing my shit over here.
I said favorite moments.
Oh,
You dippy do.
when her button shot off and almost
When her button
decapitated.
gnomed.
Yeah, that or the fucking just degenerate scene of fucking Gojo when they're at the sex hotel and he turns on the TV and then turns the volume all the way down. He's like, oh.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Learning.
Learning. He pulls out a notepad. All right. So
I was
Yeah.
like, I've got two favorite moments. I got a degen moment and like a wholesome moment. I think
it is.
the degen moment for me is for sure when his grandfather like walks by his room and he's just playing the Slippery Girls, and you just hear like, Yamate, and he's taking notes diligently, like, oh, okay, so that's what she looks like, and his grandfather's like, well, I guess he's at that age.
Just carry on my wayward son.
Carry on. But a wholesome moment has to be when they're heading back home from their first cosplay event on the train, and Gojo's like super tired, and Kitagawa's like, oh yeah, you can rest, and Gojo says, you know, you look really beautiful today, and then you flash back to like an earlier scene where this comment that he makes, so you're just like, oh, it's just kind of a throwaway. You're like, oh god, it means so much more. He says like, you know, I only call things beautiful if I truly love it. Like it has to mean a lot for me to say that something's beautiful. And for him to say that about her, she was like, what? 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 And the episode ends.
I will say, so something about that scene that I noticed a bit more in the English version than I did in the subbed version. He goes on to say beautiful a hell of a lot more throughout the series after that. It
has to be a translation issue because like when we watched it subbed, it's like, you know, you're pretty or you're cute. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, when they're at the beach, he calls it beautiful. The fireworks were beautiful. Like, I think he called food at some point beautiful. Like, he calls a lot of things beautiful further on in the show. I'm like, what?
Maybe he just really meant it.
If you remember too, all those scenes are with Kitagawa, right?
True,
so they're it's like all things that he finds beautiful because it would be different if he was alone. It's because he's with her.
Maybe. Yeah.
I think he makes that comment too, like about like how like, you know, I wouldn't do these things unless, you know, unless it was for you.
Unless and he's with you or somebody else, I guess.
And he's experiencing all these things for the first time with her. So I don't know. That scene just I go, oh, my heart.
It is.
And then you also get a little chuckle from Kitagawa just being dumbfounded, like, the fuck did you just say to me?
Do I like him? Do I not like him? Do I like him? I don't know. Do I like him? I don't know. Fuck.
Oh wait. All right. Then runner-up scene. Sorry, real quick. As Uniqlo, when he's coming out of the dressing room with all these outfits, and he like looks kind of like they're all like super high res like what do you call them, like graphic tees. And they don't fit his style. They don't fit his style at all.
T-shirt. Oh,
and he's so uncomfortable. And Kitagawa's face is always like, oh god. And you're like, oh god, this is not going to be good. And the Uniqlo guy that's helping him, he's like, oh god, he looks awful. And he's like, I'll come back. And then Kitagawa just
the Uniqlo guy is like, you look awful in his mind, and then he's out loud. He's like,
yeah,
you look great in that.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need something. I'll come back.
And Kitagawa's just quiet. And then you go into her mind. She's like, OMG, she's so cute. Oh, why is he so cute? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so adorable.
Yeah, her little freakouts are fucking adorable, and they're hilariously great. I think one of the funniest, probably the funniest moment of the entire show though, is when they are doing the photo shoot or before they do the photo shoot, when they're staking out the like haunted old, like,
with Gojo and Juju
building. Yeah, Gojo is just like, oh, thank you so much, Juju, and like holds her hands, and Juju's like, she's just never held hands with a guy before because she goes to an all-girls school, just isn't around guys very much. So he holds her hands, and she just freaks the fuck out and just mentally just not there anymore, checked out, and just kind of just faints.
I think she passes. Yeah, she passes.
Yeah, she just passes out, just like kneeling there, and Gojo just freaks out, just like, oh no, what's wrong? Somebody help!
Well,
but
you
just
don't
like
even
the narrator of just like explaining the entire thing of her
Yeah.
just like fainting is hilarious.
you don't even talk about the scene right before that. Is like it starts raining and thundering, and Juju says something to Gojo that makes him really emotional. So he starts like zombie walking at her like while crying, and she's like, "Oh, what's happening? No, don't do this. What is going on? No, please stop!" And he's just like mindlessly walking at her, and then he just holds her hands like, "Oh my gosh, thank you!" And then yeah, that's when her brain just goes flatlined, and she's out cold.
It's like the scene in Bochi where they look at her forehead and everybody turns to dust. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of good scenes in.
Oh
in
yeah, like
My Dress Up Darling.
the movie scene where they're watching the scary movie,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just like losing her mind in the background. He's like, "Oh, yeah, that is a little creepy," and she's like, just can't handle it. And
Yeah,
but
we should also make the disclaimer too for anyone who hasn't seen it. Which again, at this point, I'm not sure why you're here with us, but it is quite etchy, I will say.
yes,
But
yeah,
it's
horny.
it's I always argue this because I hear people online being like, no, it's just sexual to be sexual. It's whatever. It's etchy in a tasteful way because they integrate cosplaying into it. Because there is some level based on the characters that she's cosplaying as of sexualization to it, because that's just what cosplaying is, right? Like if you want to be faithful to a character, you're not like if a character traditionally wears like the video game character, like a bikini, you're not going to be like, I'm going to wear a full suit instead and still be the character.
I would also double down a little bit in the fact that Kitagawa is just the type of character in general who doesn't really care what people think about her, and she's very comfortable with her. She's comfortable, yeah, with herself and with her body, and she doesn't mind Gojo seeing her like that, let alone posting images online in her cosplays. But I think just her as a personality and her just not like being very comfortable with herself and her body, that it kind of is just like, okay, we're doing this because this is the type of person she is. It's not necessarily because like we're just sexualizing somebody for the sake of it.
And there's a scene that basically describes exactly what you just talked about, which is when Gojo goes over to her apartment and she opens the door and she's in like a nightgown, and it's quite revealing, and she goes, "Oh shit, I don't have my contacts in."
Yep.
and that's not what he noticed.
And Gojo's like, "That's what you forgot?"
That's what you freaking out about.
Yeah. But yeah, to your point though, that's just who she is as a character, right? I mean, in terms of like labeling the characters, she is what's called like a gal or a gyaru, and very open about themselves and not afraid to just show off the body because they're very confident, and they it's kind of like a I don't give a crap attitude, which is like that's great. What's even more hilarious is seeing a guy who has no experience whatsoever with anything in the world, like just anything, doesn't matter, people, objects, places, like literally oblivious to it all, interacting with a girl like this and being a bit oblivious at times, we'll say. Like
he's
not
like a 15-year-old newborn baby.
Basically, yeah. Is he 15? I thought he was.
Yeah, he's 15 years old.
I thought they were 17.
They're 15.
Oh no, is Juju older than them?
Yes, Juju.
Yeah, that's Juju's.
So they're freshmen in high school. Juju's a second year.
Third year. I think is she a second or third? That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But she's a grade ahead of them, I believe.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's those interactions are I think what people pick up the most on in terms of like, oh, it's super etchy. Like there's this like. Second episode, he's like, all right, you're gonna come over and get measurements for the cosplay, and she shows up in a bikini,
and he's like, what are you doing?
He's like, wow, ah! And she's like, well, calm down, this is what you just see at a beach, it's okay. But then he's taking measurements, and he's like kind of oblivious at times to the areas in which he is measuring. Sometimes he is very aware, sometimes not so much. We'll just kind of leave it at that. But it makes for like interactions between them where they're both in and out of each other's comfort zones. Like they're like Kitagawa's like, yeah, I'm in a bikini, so what blah 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 blah, and then something happens and like now she's uncomfortable, but Gojo's in the zone and he doesn't really realize it. So it's a lot of those kind of moments throughout the first couple episodes of understanding each other's personalities and how they interact, and then watching them start to grow more and more accustomed to each other and their individual quirks and whatnot. And God dang it, I just want another season. Please, God, give me another season right now.
That won't happen for a while.
I'm gonna wait,
Or
man.
I could only assume it won't happen for a while.
Yeah, we'll see. But I mean,
yeah.
even though we made a comment, I made a comment earlier about how the manga comes out a little slowly. I do appreciate the creators' level of research and like dedication that goes into writing out these stories, because they are very they're very detailed top to bottom when it comes to cosplaying. Like they go out to the stores and interact with the owners, and like there's one store in particular that there's a real life store in Japan somewhere that she uses in her stories for the, like, I think it's the wig shop. And it's like understanding like what goes into buying a wig for a costume, and like the different colors, the different cuts that come, that they're pre-cut at. Like there's a lot of intricacies within cosplaying, and she, by my knowledge, kind of nails it pretty well. Now I'm coming from someone that doesn't cosplay and doesn't really understand fully what goes into it. I from reading it and from reading her notes and exactly what she went through to get everything as accurate as possible. I mean, that's astounding. Like that's incredible to go to those lengths. And it shows in the manga. I think it shows in how the story progresses, how the characters grow, how better the cosplays get every time too. I mean, we've just now hit volume 6, just came out, I think.
7.
7, sorry.
No,
And like just in reading too, you kind of see details wise, even the speed at which Gojo is able to complete them. Like everything about the cosplays just gets better and better and better every time. So you're seeing growth there, and that comes with experience, obviously. But it also is just the author being able to describe it really, really well, like from top to bottom. Like it. Kudos to her. It's been wonderful. But Cloverworks, though, get your shit together in a second season right now. Do it.
Honestly, they do have enough material to make a second season theoretically. Oh, yeah. I mean, it went to chapter, I think, like 35, and they have 79 chapters out currently in Japan. So theoretically, they have enough to do another. Weird fun fact: we only got 2 new volumes last year. Volume 5 and 6. We are getting 4 this year. We're getting 7, 8, 9, 10 theoretically.
Hooray!
Yeah. So it'll actually be every like 2 months.
All right.
Kind of 3 months, whatever. But I think overall, I mean, we've all kind of agreed, and as you've heard in this conversation, we all really enjoyed this show. Like from top to bottom, there wasn't really much about the show to complain about. It was just a very good show. And we didn't even talk about the whole sex hotel scene, which was fantastic.
You should experience that.
I'm good.
Drew, is that an invite?
No. I mean, like, don't listen to us talk about it. Watch it. Experience it.
Oh.
It's so much better when any of this show plays out. Like, everyone's gonna high five. Everyone's gonna say this show's great. But a lot of the time when I finish watching an anime, I go, "Oh, I've finished this," or I can wait for part 3 of the final season of the climax of the third extinction, whatever they're doing over there in that certain show. Yeah, exactly. Right? But when this ended, I was like, okay, so when's the next one coming out? And the only news we have is season 2 is confirmed, right? So, but I also came out of it feeling like that energy that, because I'm old, the energy that you get when you first started watching anime, when you were excited to know what was next, when you were discovering a new genre, series, whatever it may have been, your buddy bootlegs you Cowboy Bebop, and you're just like, this is what it's all about. Like, because I myself have cosplayed in the past, I've done my own costumes. The connection there was very heartwarming, and just him doing the whole, "Oh, it's ready. We can go tomorrow if you want." And she's like, "Well, no. I was waiting for the next one, not this one." And he's like, "Oh, okay then. And
I
I've
s-
I've worked with people that have done that. So it's again, 10 out of 10. Don't at me.
Yeah. And I'll say this point too before we wrap up, that even if you're not into cosplaying or Hina dolls, which I mean, who in this day and age isn't into Hina dolls? I mean, I've got so many Hina dolls that are called anime figures and not the same, but regardless, uh, i you can still find some level of like s- connection to the show in your own personal way. Like I would argue to say that I think everyone out there has a hobby or an interest that is fairly unique to them. Maybe it's not extremely widely known, or maybe it is, and you just you have a passion for it, whatever it might be, right? Everyone has a passion for something, and sometimes it's easy to connect with people on it, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it's a lot harder to tell your friends, like, hey, my hobby is I go out and I cosplay as characters, and it's like that's a little weird as a guy. Or like if you're a girl, it's like, hey, I'm really into this type of sport, and it's like that sport's for guys. Ew, gross. Like there's a lot of things that are barrier, like people find to be barriers when they're introducing hobbies to one another, and this show addresses that issue, and in different manners and different ways kind of talks about it's okay to be passionate about something if it's not normal, or if people find it abnormal, but to you it can be like, it doesn't matter if it's abnormal to others. It's only what you feel about it. Like if this is your norm and if this is your interest and you really have a burning passion for this, just own it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly fine. Like it's your thing. Do with it as you please.
I
And
know
I
what
think
I know Tyler's weird hobby.
yeah, yeah.
It's sticking different vitamins up your butt and seeing what the effects are.
Yeah, I got a Flintstone stuck up there a while ago and just hasn't moved an inch.
It's hard
Been
as a
real
rock.
rough. Yeah, it is. But I'm chink. And just that you just threw me off so much. I hate you. But to wrap up the thought, though, it's like in that aspect of the show, I find to be like the most satisfying, because as again, I appreciate cosplayers. I find them to be extremely creative, and you like, first off, it's intense just to even get to the point where you can cosplay a character. Like I don't even want to know how many hours goes into it, because I know it's just a ton, and it's wonderful to see the outcome, and I appreciate them for their hard work and efforts. I just know that I couldn't do it. But even so, I have personal hobbies and interests that I was like, I can relate to this in this manner, and like, yeah, I kind of connect with Gojo on that level. And then there's other areas where like, yeah, I'm kind of like a Kitagawa in this aspect too. You can have some level of like similarities to the characters and enjoy it, even if you're not a cosplayer or a Hina doll maker. That's the beauty of this show too, is that anyone can enjoy it no matter what. It's not just for the etchy cosplayers or the introverted Hina doll crafters.
To summarize what Tyler just said, you do you, boo boo.
Yep, exactly. You do you, boo boo.
Yeah, and if you love it, celebrate it, right? Because I remember growing up in an era where watching Japanese cartoons was weird. Why do you watch that stuff? And now it's one of the biggest content things out there. It's amazing to be a part of that fandom, and just this show, like I said, reignited that passion, that excitement that I had, and it's just overall wholesome AF, and everyone should watch it.
Agreed. Yeah, I gave it a 9 personally. I think it's great. There's something for everybody in this show, whether it be the comedy relating to the characters or the actual hobbies themselves. There's something in there for everybody. So
Okay, well, with those final comments, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. If you have suggestions on what we should watch next, please send them our way at Baka&Co Podcast over on Twitter. We want to thank Akano from SoundCloud for our intro song, and then until next time, we'll be huddling around the TV watching Bochi.